Are you looking to build influence? Or maybe to drive more traffic? But bottom line, you want to change the game. You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Business Building Book Club. We're going to give you the tools you need to succeed, both online and in person. Brought to you by Coach Molly and Three Pines Leadership. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Business Building Book Club. I'm your host, Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership, and thank you again for spending this part of your day with me. This episode, I'm so excited because I'm introducing you to one of my favorite people in the digital space. Oh, he's like better than a cup of coffee in the morning. I promise you, this guy is made of energy. Made of energy. So if you've listened to one of my other podcasts, the Lifelong Podcast, or you were amazing and you came to the Mindset and Impact Virtual Summit, you have seen this guy before. So I'm going to introduce you to the one and only man on fire, Andy Benjamin himself. So welcome to the podcast, Andy.
Thank you, Molly. You're so awesome. What a great introduction. And now a lot to live up to.
Oh, man.
Gonna be fun. Gonna be fun.
Like yours deserves a great introduction.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk about this. I think this is one of the most misunderstood, simple ideas that Russell has. Because it is like conceptually it's simple. Like there's three different areas, and you get a subcategory, and you figure out exactly what you're gonna do, and then you're done. But we all muck it up when we get started. Like everybody mucks this up when they get started because we misinterpret what's being said, and we have to separate, a few things. So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
So at first we're talking, Russell starts real big and he goes way back in time and he talks about life in the good old days when there was only three markets. And some people kind of argue about whether or not there's an extra category or why is it only these three. But really, when you just break things down to be as simple as possible, you end up with health, wealth, and relationships. And Russell brings up a fantastic example where he talks about a razor company. So a razor company, is that health, wealth, or relationships? Well, it actually doesn't matter what your product is, it's how you're marketing it. Yes. So he shows this ad and it becomes really simply obvious that this brand is actually marketing in that relationship area because they show this beautiful man and he shaves his face and then he goes on a date and it ends up being successful and they end up at home and, well, that's obviously going to be relationships, right? But it's a razor. So yeah, what do those three categories look like in your business, Andy?
That's a really, really awesome question. First off, I love that example and that's the thing that we have to separate. We've got to separate what we do, what we provide, with how we're marketing. And there's separate conversations. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is that in My Fire Within, which is my company that I share with my wife, we focus on lighting the fire within for purpose-driven, socially responsible entrepreneurs. We believe that if we're going to save the planet, it's not Greenpeace that's going to save it. It's entrepreneurs that are going to save the planet, and we're going to do it. It's going to be socially conscious entrepreneurs who are purpose-driven, who have gotten a message from the divine. Now, here's the reality: is that most purpose-driven, socially conscious entrepreneurs who have hit, 5 digits, who have hit 6 digits, who have really started to build their business, a lot of times they've just lost their passion for it. Everything seems like a chore, and it seems like a chore because the magic that got you in, that got you initially excited, that kept you up at nights, has petered out some sort of way. Or you're in a place where you have to compete between your relationships and your purpose. Or you're in a place where you're going just fine, but for some reason you just can't seem to grow. because no matter how much you network, it just ends up being a trial and tribulation. Some other person's throwing their card in your face, and you're like, why am I even doing this? So there's all of these instances where we've kind of lost that loving feeling, for lack of a better word. And what we do is we help to light people's fire again in those three areas. Now, so if you take a look at my business, for example, so what area is that? Is that wealth? Sure it is. It's about your business, right? Unless your business is going to grow. And if you're doing a non-wealth business, I'm telling you, it's not a business. Okay. So of course it's business.
It's a hobby.
Exactly. On the other hand, people, purpose-driven entrepreneurs also have lives outside of it. And the reality is when you take a look at the stats that, where entrepreneurs are 10% more likely to divorce, right? We're twice as likely to deal with depression-like symptoms. Like there's a lot of pressure on entrepreneurs, and specifically the entrepreneurial personality style, to deal with all this stuff because we can't turn it off. And so it's constantly rolling around. So there's always this tension between our relationships and our purpose, right? So are we a relationship business? Sort of, right? Yeah. And part of lighting our fire within is making sure we have the physical resources. You can't light a fire when your wood's wet. So the physical resources to light that fire. So there's a health element in our business as well. So are we a health business? Sort of. So now we're stuck because Russell's told me to pick. So do I stop 3/4 of my business? What do I do? How do I do this? How do I unlock the secret? Sorry, I couldn't help it. You're welcome, Russell.
Links below.
So how do we figure this out? Well, we have to recognize that marketing is different than what we produce, and we have to start somewhere, right? So when we're talking about deciding what area, we're talking about what area we're going to fish from. Where are we going to draw our people in from? Because if we draw our people in from the relationships area, for example, our lead magnets, our whole funnel is going to look wildly different. Now, once they're in, we also know that because we understand our avatar, I know that if I bring someone in via relationships, which we don't actually do, we don't often do, we actually bring them in other ways, but we bring them in via relationships, I know that they're going to have at one point or another a purpose challenge. I know they're going to have a networking challenge. I know that because I know our avatar. I know our avatar really well. If we're going to bring them in the wealth department, I know that they're coming home at nights, and I know that their wife is looking at them like you missed another supper, right? I know the husband's like, what's happening here? I'm suddenly in charge of washing clothes. Like, when do we discuss? I know those things are happening. And the cool thing is that the cool thing that we discovered, little plug, the cool thing that we discovered is that lighting your fire in those three areas isn't three separate things. And that's what most people out there think it is. They think it's one of the biggest searched terms is work-life balance. And I'll tell you right now, balance is garbage. It doesn't work. Tell me the last time when you were doing something really important, Molly, that you felt balanced, that you spent as much time building something as you did with, a relationship. Good luck, right? I know. I already know what you're going to say because we're the same, right?
That's a myth.
And anyone who has walked the talk, anyone who has a 5-figure, 6-figure business who's walked the talk knows that already. So this whole work-life balance that we're all searching for it's a unicorn. It's a myth. It's out there. But the way that we do find work-life synergy is it's the exact same method in all three areas. And so we just work through the method in all three areas. So point is what area is my business in? All three. What area do we focus in? Well,
I love that you talk about going fishing too, because Russell talks about the red oceans and the blue oceans. So the red oceans are those overfished areas, and eventually health, wealth, and relationships became the red oceans. There's so many other people fishing there. It was just full of blood, and you're fighting for scraps at that point, right?
You're making it really just, but and entrails. There's entrails.
Absolutely. I'm like envisioning like chunks of half-eaten fish.
Yeah.
You know that cartoon idea of the like half-eaten garbage fish where it's just the tail and then like it's skeleton
Bones.
and somehow it remains intact? Like that's what I'm envisioning in the red ocean.
Right.
Then if you think about water systems and on a map, oceans then will end up going through streams and rivers into smaller bodies of water, and that's where we end up getting our sub-markets. So then you have, oh, well, if you're in relationships, are you working with couples, or are you working with business relationships, or are you working with parenting relationships? And so what do sub-markets look like in a business like yours as well?
Great question. So let's talk about the big markets, though. Let's talk about it, because I think that's important. Those big markets, I think the reason why Russell picked them, and I think this, like you, I suspect there are other markets, and I know there's other markets, but those are the ones that are evergreen, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter if you're having a total crisis like we have right now, and you have a crisis. People are still, especially now, are looking for health solutions. Yep. They're looking for, definitely now, they're looking for more than ever, they're looking for wealth solutions. And relationships don't stop. In fact, times like this, relationships get more, there's more tension in relationships.
And we're looking for a new way of relating to each other as well.
Absolutely. So these are evergreen areas. And I think that's probably why Russell picked them. I know other speakers talk about this too. Other experts that I love. Frank Kern talks about that as well. Like if you're going to pick something in those areas. He just says the other area is entertainment, right?
Yeah.
But that's hard to get. Let's just go make a movie, right? Go for it.
Yeah.
And Vice. So
yeah.
So heroin's the other area. I don't recommend jumping into that. That's a red ocean too. So we're looking at.
What about the world of like spiritual connection? Does that fit into relationship, or is that its own market?
I think it's probably its own market, but I think spiritual connection happens when you have a like in 2018, that would have been a great time to talk about spiritual connection, because the market's kicking along, it's going well, people have a lot of money, that kind of thing. But when you have when you have times where the market crashes like this, I mean, that's when education companies just jump out of the woodwork, right? That's when if you're looking at the universities, they hire a whole marketing team, or what are they called? Call centers. They hire whole call centers when the market crashes, because they know everyone's going back to school, right? And whoever gets them first gets it. So I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think those are different areas. I don't really fit into those unless you're being very loose about your conception of relationships. So your relationship with the divine, perhaps. But I think when we're talking about relationships, we're talking about
people to people.
Yeah, people to people, and specifically like romantic relationships. That's really kind of the gist of it, right? Although you can broaden that out to family relationships, but absolutely, they're not evergreen though, right? When things are going great, health is making money, wealth is making money, and relationships are making money. When things are going terrible, health is making money, wealth is making money, relationships are making money.
Yeah.
Everything else kind of depends on where you are, right?
And so I guess really also those three markets will track along a customer's timeline as well, because like those three markets are things that people will be interested in from at any stage in their life, as opposed to education, where that's a segment, there's a finite time, even though you can
teens and 20s, late 30s and 40s, right?
Exactly.
Midlife crisis, start of life crisis, I guess, right? So absolutely. So in my specific area, the area that we're looking on, so I've already said it, but I'll speak to it. So we're talking about wealth, but when we do a subcategory of people who are interested in wealth, we're talking about people who are socially conscious, right? Socially conscious entrepreneurial types who are even farther, who are purpose driven. So think about what that disqualifies. That disqualifies. There's a lot of people out there like, what are you doing? You know, what's your business like? And they're like, my business is whatever's selling right now. And they literally, there's nothing wrong with those folks.
It's transactional to them.
Exactly. So there's no judgment here, but I'm saying that they're not my people.
Yeah.
They're not the people who have this mission that they're going to do, you know, hell or high water. They're not the people that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
So all the people that I'm talking about are people who are like, and once again, socially responsible entrepreneurs. So also think about this too. I'm talking to, so here's the category down. In the wealth department, I'm talking to entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking to everybody. I'm not talking to people who have a side gig, where it's kind of a hobby, where they want to make a couple $100 so they can, you know, buy extra yarn for their sewing circle. Like that's not the person I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the dabblers who are out there. I'm talking to entrepreneurs. So that's already sub-marketed my people.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking about socially conscious people. So people who, whatever they're going to do, they're going to make socially conscious decisions because they want to change the world. Okay. And then I'm talking about people who specifically, they're not jumping on any socially conscious train. They're not happy when we're on any recycling. Oh, Coke's recycling now. Let's do that. Right? They're people who have their own purpose and they're passionate about it. So now I've categorized it again. So really, when you're thinking about your subcategory, you're thinking about all of the things that limit who you're talking to. So you're talking more clearly to them. Now, why do you do this? Because you can't market to someone who you don't know.
Yeah.
Because socially conscious, purpose-driven entrepreneurs have different problems than serial entrepreneurs who are transactional and whose the relationship with their business is transactional. They have different problems. They're not interested in the same stuff. So when I start speaking to people, and they always say it's an old adage, you know you're doing it right when you offend 1/3 of the people, 1/3 of the people don't care, and 1/3 of the people love you. Well, how do you do that? You don't just do it by being an a-hole. You're not just cursing at people. You do it by getting really, really clear about the pains that your people have. And once you're very clear about the pains that your people have, then you're speaking to them. Now, it does two things. It attracts people, which is super fantastic. Yeah. But also, when you're talking about when you're starting to build your stacks, you're building your stacks not generically any longer. It's not just here's something else I can do that I have, because that's mindless, unconscious. And unless you're selling just to you or just to you clones, that's not going to be effective. Now, some businesses it is, and maybe you are your own perfect entrepreneur and fine and fair enough. But for those of us who are looking kind of a little bit, yes, I'm similar to my avatar, but I am not my avatar, right? So then I can then look at when I'm niched down, I look at, okay, look at all the problems that they have. And it's more, especially, and I know we're not talking about stacking right now, but I just love those stacks. So when we're talking about building stacks, okay, someone buys my system, right? They're coming into my system. What's the next problem they have now that they've bought my system? Not that they have in general, but now that they bought my system, what's the next challenge? Well, that's something I can stack. Well, what's the next challenge after that? That's something I can stack, and that's something I can stack, and that's something I can stack. But that only happens because we know who our people are.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're narrowing down. So that's, and then eventually, of course, we hit the niche level. But that's subcategory. Getting into a subcategory, super important. Super important. It's not an extra. I used to do this. I used to read this stuff, and I used to just do this stuff, and I'm like, oh, it's just what you got to do. Like, it's the next thing, and it's the next thing that is up, right? To check off, next box to check off.
Yeah.
But it's not a next box to check off. This is the condition to be able to speak powerfully to your people, and I think not nobody. No one that I know and that I respect is in this business to not knock someone's socks off.
Yeah.
After someone talks to me, they better say to themselves, oh my gosh, that was incredible. And that's the goal. Now, I might not hit that goal all the time, but that's the goal. And if we want to hit that goal, this is the only way to do that. When we're starting to build our business, we have to know who we're talking to.
I remember when I first got into business and I was listening to the worst advice. So I've mentioned the bad advice I've gotten before. So one guy said, definitely the first thing you should do in your business is pick a name, get a really cool logo, and then spend a bunch of money at the computer store because now you can get a business account. I was like, wow, this is amazing. No wonder your business went under. Okay.
Yeah, no kidding. That's funny.
So I scrolled through all the YouTube videos, everything about niching, It's so important to get a coach. I have to say that because if you just sit there and you're like, okay, Russell says find a niche. Okay, so I'm going to Google how do I find a niche? But if you don't understand what you were talking about, understanding who your avatar is, that process of finding a niche, the journey that you take to get there is going to be completely different and they're not going to line up. You're going to end up just maybe getting all of your advice from people who want to do drop shipping stores and just want to sell the latest hot item. So they're going to look for different trends and they're going to look for the problems and solutions in a different way than if you're like, all right, I have this person in mind. I've named my avatar because everyone listening has done their homework, right? I've named my avatar. I've given them a picture. I know exactly who they are. And I know that in 1 year's time, I'm going to stand on a stage in front of that group of people. And I'm going to read out that avatar and they're all going to put up their hands because they think that I'm writing about them. That's how important writing your avatar is. And you can then, once you understand their problems, then you create the journey to their solutions through your vehicle, through the systems and the solutions that you offer into the market. I love it. I love it. So
I think it's super cool. I think it's super cool. And here's the other thing. I think one of the best reasons to do it is to throw it away. And what I mean by that is that we have an idea of who we're going to serve. And then as we get really clear, we think to ourselves, why did I do that? I got it all wrong. Yeah. And it's a dance. And when I walk new people through this, and my own experience as I had gone through it myself, it's a dance. It's not, and I know how it's depicted. It's depicted like, okay, first I get an avatar, and then I go get a picture, and then I write out all the things about them, and then I write all the problems that they have, and then I list I do an inventory of all the things that I can do, and then I pick the things, and then I realize the things there, and then I start telling my stories, and you're like, oh, of course, it makes so much sense, right? But it sounds clean, but it's not. It's a mess. It's a mess. And I love that Russell, put this book together, and I love it. And there's not enough pages in this book because you're going to have to cross half of them off half the time because it's a mess. And if you're in the middle of if you're 5-6 figure at this point, you know what I'm saying. You're just nodding along. But if you're not, and you're just getting rolling, and you think, I'm a failure. This is just a mess. I'm totally wrong. No, that's the process. The process is a mess. That's exactly how it looks. You're never going to get it right the first time. And it's the same thing when you start running ads. You're never going to get it right the first time. It's the same thing as you start to build your business and build your offer. You're never going to get it right the first time. You're going to do beta groups. And you're like, oh, I've totally got it. And then you're going to do beta groups. And people are like, that sucks. It's the worst. But I love this. And you're like, I wasn't even doing that. I was doing that by fluke. And you're never going to get it right the first time. But you're never going to get it right the first time.
Unless you start.
Yeah. Well, you never know, and then you're still never going to get it. You're never going to get it right the first time. The only thing you're going to get right the first time is and once again, I'm revealing my colors here, is to connect with what you feel like you need to do, the change that you want to be in this world, and commit to that. And when you commit to that, then you'll know that all of the mistakes that happen are worth it. And all the mistakes are bringing you closer to where you're supposed to be. And I really believe that we've all been given we've all been given a task here, spiritually, that we discover the path of that by, like, just how we learn to drive. You go off the road, and then off the road, and then off the road, and then off the road, and finally we kind of figure out, okay, this is my path, this is my lane, this is my niche, right? And so that's how we roll into it, I think.
And so earlier when we were chatting before we started recording the podcast that everyone's listening to right now, you gave me some fantastic advice about walking down that path from submarket to niche and understanding that you have to figure out what your solution is and how it intersects with your people. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so what a lot of people do is they're like, I found my niche. And they're like, what's your niche? And they tell you what they're going to do. And you're like, that's awesome, but what's your niche? And they're like, no, I told you what I'm going to, this is my mission, right? And I'm like, fantastic. Knowing your mission is really important, because you need that. But when we niche down, part of what we're doing is we're finding we're connecting the submarket, we're intersecting the submarket with our passion, with what we do. And that little area, that's our niche. That's the specific spot, right? So purpose-driven entrepreneurs, socially responsible or socially responsible. Okay, narrowed it down. I've got it very narrowed down, but that's not really my niche. What's my niche? My niche is those people who have lost their passion, right? So my niche is the people, right? The sub-market that intersects with the specific problem that my sub-market has. I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of great purpose-driven, socially responsible entrepreneurs out there who will never use what I have, because I'm not their person. Because somewhere along the line they've maintained it, or they've decided that. And when I'm walking people through my high ticket coaching program, I will literally, it's called Light Yourself, and it's amazing. Light yourself, light your life. I will literally walk them through and say, hey, do you really care about your business, or can you do it? You do anything? No, I really care. Fantastic. Do you want a relationship? And some people say no.
Yeah.
Right? Some people say no. Well, guess what? They're probably not my people, because at one point or another, a major part of my message is using your relationship to empower your message, as opposed to using it to tear it apart, right? I double check to make sure that these people have an entrepreneurial personality type. Because the people who have an entrepreneurial personality type who also want to have a relationship are the people that I want to talk to, right? If they're not, they're niched out. They're someone else's thing. Now, look at how specific that is, though. I'm disqualifying all kinds of people. And some people are like, oh, no, we've disqualified everyone. How are you ever going to make money? And that's, when we have a scarcity mindset like that, we can't win. There's zero way to win. I'm telling you, there's billions of people on this planet. Somewhere out there, some is your people. You just haven't found them yet if you're worried about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So now I have another question, totally off topic, but totally not. When you're targeting purpose-driven entrepreneurs, so that's an identity and a behavior. How do you actually target them in terms of tactics on Facebook targeting ?
Okay, so you're getting into some of the technical stuff. So first, there's a whole bunch of and we're not going to go.
Yeah, no. I'm just high level ?
Targeting, retargeting, blah blah blah. We'll go into all.
Of course.
But the best way to do it is stories. You tell a story.
Yeah.
You tell a story, and so most of the time when I'm talking to someone, and I can relay kind of first off, I start telling stories. And when I start telling stories, people start raising hands. When people start raising their hands, as I start telling stories, what ends up happening is there resonance, or is there not resonance?
Yeah.
Right? So storytelling is huge. And really, when you think about what hook, story, and offer, when you're talking about I've said like, oh, just tell stories, and people are like, oh, that's specific, and yet that is the biggest generic thing I could say, because everything is a
Absolutely.
story, right? Everything's a hook story offer, because everything's a hook story offer. So you're going to draw, and this is true all the way around. So let's take a look at the three different markets that you can not three different markets. I'm sorry, the three different traffic that you can get,
Yep.
right? Traffic that you buy, traffic that you earn, traffic that you own. Well, the traffic that you own, they're your people, or they should be anyway, because they've said yes to a hook story offer that you have somewhere along the way. So you've told a story about what you do, and it resonates powerfully with them, and they're like, oh, I'm his people. I have that problem, and they want to solve it. And remember, I mean, they might not even know your people. It depends how you're marketing to them. Are you marketing because they're are you marketing to the people who are like problem conscious? Are you marketing to the people who are solution conscious? Or are you marketing to people who are you conscious, right? You're product conscious. So it depends where you're marketing. They might not know your people, but they are your people, right?
Yeah.
So that's the traffic you earn. The traffic that you own. The traffic that you earn, well, don't go on podcasts that don't have your people in it. Yeah. See, my imagination, Molly, when I'm talking to you, I'm talking to people who are, at the very least, socially conscious. They're probably entrepreneurs. They're probably purpose driven. And if they're not making 5 to 6 figures right now, they probably will be at some point or another. If they're listening to you, they will be. So I'm conscious of where I show up. I'm not showing up on a fishing podcast. I'm not showing up on, do you hate politics podcast. I'm not showing up on those things because because it's precisely what I'm talking about. When I show up, I'm also telling stories about things that are going to matter to my avatar, right? So I'm once again telling stories in there, and of course the traffic that you buy that's your hook story offers in your advertisements. Yeah. And so absolutely, that's how you start to bring people in, is you're telling stories. Now, of course, if you're telling stories to people who are cold, you're going problem. You're having problem discussions. Right?
You don't try and sell yourself. They don't know who you are.
You're not yet. They don't care.
They don't even know your solution yet. You just want to poke at the problem and make sure they know what the problem is.
Yeah. And a lot of times when you gather that kind of traffic and you own it, a lot of times your follow-up sequence is going to be educating them down that path, right?
So, I love it. You're going to warm them up, and then they'll fall in love with you and be raving fans.
Yes. Yeah.
The secrets of influence, my friends. It's not difficult. It's simple to understand, but it does require the work. And it's so easy to look through any business book that they give you that says, okay, now stop now. Here's your homework. Here's this little checkbox item. It's so easy to brush them off and push them to the side and dismiss them. But honestly, these can be daunting. I remember opening Unlock the Secrets and looking at some of these activities and being like, nope, I'm just going to not do that. I'm just going to skip over that. Who needs a Dream 100? Let's have a Dream 17. And yeah, it's not going to keep going if you keep doing it that way.
The reality is it's not what you read. It's not what you know. It's not, it really isn't. It's what you experience. And so I would say it's not the knowledge that you have, it's the failures you've weathered. And you have to, everything that, like every time I go in, anytime someone tells me something's going to be easy, I know they're trying to sell me something, which is okay. I don't mind being sold things. There's a lot of simple stuff out there. Most of it, and like you say, most of it's simple, but it's not easy. Because as soon as you start to really experience it, you're rubbing up against your own limitations and failures, and you will fail. You will fail. I guarantee it, you'll fail. And if your whole philosophy is based on like, I'm a rock star and I never fail, good luck out there.
Yeah.
Good luck. My philosophy, our whole light your fire within system, is based upon the notion that you're not enough and you're going to fail. And if you can accept those things, you're going to win.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. I am excited to celebrate everyone's failures, so let me
yes,
know. Get in contact with me. I will
absolutely.
root you on.
It
All
has
right,
been
Andy,
so
before we
awesome.
sign
Yay.
off, how can
Yes.
everyone get into your world if they're like, hey, I am Andy's people. He is my leader. I need to hear what he has to say. How do they get in contact with you?
The easiest way is to look me up on social media
Yep.
and check out our Light Yourself. Our, my fire. Geez, my wife's gonna kill me. Myfirewithin.com is the best place to check out what we're doing and what new things we have got going on. We've got as I say, we've got a bunch of new programs that are coming up. They're right now in the process of they're the tail end of being beta tested. So it's also a really good idea. I don't know if you guys know this. Here's a life hack. If you want to get like really high level, high ticket programs for pretty cheap, look for beta tests. And just so you know, we're looking for beta testers. So by all means, it's a way of getting high ticket programs for a fraction of normally how much it costs. So if you're interested in that, please, reach out to me. And if you've thought like what I've said, you're like, I'm that guy. I'm socially conscious. I'm purpose driven. I really want to, and I have a relationship. I love relationship. I love my partner, but things are a little bit. I'm that person. By all means, definitely reach out to me. You can reach out to me on social media, on Facebook. You're going to see Andy Benjamin. You see me in a suit and doing stuff. I think I'm on a stage or something like that. Or go to our website and just check us out there and connect with us there. We'd love to have you. And I got nothing but love for you guys. Love you so much. And Molly, thank you so much for this. Yeah, this has been so fun.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been a blast. I love hanging out with you. You're my favorite. Well, thank you, everyone. And enjoy this episode, my friends. Remember, share it out with whoever you think would find value from this. Because I know you have a friend at home that's like totally full of great ideas and needs just that little push to get them over the edge and get them started into this wonderful world of entrepreneurialism. Share this podcast where you can, my friends. Get in touch with me on all of my socials. Hang out and check out Andy and My Fire Within. Links are below. I will see you guys next week for yet another chapter of Expert Secrets. I'm not even going to read the subline this time because I can never remember it. All right, my friends, I'm signing off. I'm Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership. This has been the Business Building Book Club with Andy Benjamin, and I will see you again next episode. Until then, remember, I love you. Be excellent to each other.